Alright, today I want to spend a little bit of time playing around with the sine curve and what some different values mean within the function. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to play around with the desmos calculator. A lot of you have played around with the desmos calculator before. Some of you have told me that this is the only thing you've used. So you should be pretty good at it. So what I want to first do is go ahead and log into desmos.com. The screen will pop up and you're going to go ahead and click on graphing calculator. Go ahead and click on that. There we go. And in this first box up here in the left hand corner, we're going to type in the function y equals a sine parentheses bx minus c, end your parentheses, plus d. And at this point it's going to ask you to add sliders for a, b, c, and d, or all. And what I want you to do is go ahead and click for all. And this screen is going to pop up. We're not going to worry about these at this point, but we will eventually move those around and change them. The next thing I want you to do is go ahead and change the parameters for the graph. And what you're going to do is come up here to the right hand corner, this little wrench, and you're going to come down here to the x-axis. And we're going to change this from negative 10 to 10. We're going to go from negative 2 pi, and to get negative 2 pi we can type in the negative 2 and then type in pi. And that will bring up our pi symbol. And our maximum value, we want to go ahead and go to 2 pi. And what we're going to do, what we do with this is it's going to restrict the values that we go from and to. And in our steps, notice our steps at this point in time, we have 0, and then we have 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2. These are the negatives, of course. And then for the negative 6. What I want to do is to see this in terms of pi, because this gets us into those radian measures that we've been working with so far. So your steps, I want to go ahead and put in as pi. So now notice our x-axis, we have negative pi over 2, we have negative pi, we have negative 3 pi over 2, and negative 2 pi. So it's going to see a little more of what we see. So now we're in more of a radian measure than we are in just normal values. And in our y-axis, I'm interested to go from negative 10 to about 10. You can be a little smaller than that if you want. This isn't as critical, but if we go from negative 10 to 10, we're going to be able to see a lot of what's going on here. And we're going to be able to use those sliders a little easier. All right, and then we're in radians. So you can go ahead and click again on that wrench, and it's going to go away for us. The next thing I want you to do is to go ahead and change your sliders. So we want to keep a and b equal to 1, but I want you to make c equal to 0. So the way we can do that is click on it, and then you can move it. If you have a touch screen, you can move that as well. But we're going to make c and d equal to 0 by just sliding it to the left or to the right. Sometimes it's a little touchy, especially if I'm using that keypad there. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of investigate, what does a, b, c, and d do? Alright, and this is just with the sine curve. So what I want you to do is to click on this slider of A, and I want you to slowly, move it from the left and to the right. And I want you to see what happens, what happens as A goes from 1, so we have 1 here, and then we go out to 10. What happens to this graph? Right, and put it in your own words. It doesn't have to be scientific, it doesn't have to be mathematical at this point in time. We will definitely define those eventually here. Alright, what happens between 0 and 1? So between 0 and 1, what happens with that graph? Alright, what happens when a is negative? So we're over here in the negative values. What happens there? And then finally, what happens when a is 0? Think about a being 0. Alright, oh, where's a 0? It's so close. So notice that it's very close there, but what happens when a is 0? What happens, and why does that happen? Why, when I replace this 0 with a, that I get this kind of graph? Okay? And that'll get, so you can go ahead and answer A through D on that worksheet that I've given you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and reset that A to 1, and we're playing around with B. Right? So what happens when B is, 1 or so on? you know, what happens as b is from 1, ooh, look at that, as b is from 1 to 10. All right, what happens when b is between 0 and 1? And what happens when we're negative? Okay, so you can go ahead and play around with those, and then finally you're going to reset that to 1, and you're going to change the d value. All right, so we're going to take that d value, and we're going to set it. You know, we're going to change it, and we're going to see what happens with that d value as we play around with it. Okay, c, we're going to leave c off as in Algebra 2. I put it in there because eventually we will do this. This is the same activity in pre-calculus, but we're going to play around with that c value as well. But today I want you to play around with your a, b, and your d value. Go ahead and answer those questions and see what happens. Good luck, enjoy. If you have questions, let me know.